Be decisive. You know, to me, advice like these almost never really makes sense. It's interesting. On one hand, deciding too fast might mean you might miss out on things and make a rushed decision. On the other hand, if you don't decide and remain confused, you might get taken advantage of and never do anything. So what do we really mean by be decisive? In fact, what do we mean by any advice at all? That's what this video is trying to answer, really. I think what this advice really has hidden within it is the idea that we don't make the right decisions necessarily, but rather we make our decisions correct. Whether or not we have a long ass time to decide or we have to think really fast, the real confusion of the mind is not actually necessary. Every decision can be probably made right. And in this way, I do firmly believe that our intuitions are the highest forms of our mind's ability. But to get to this, I think some of the qualities like confusion, selfishness, and clinginess to other sorts of things have to be let go in some manner. In the moments when I'm raptured in my anger and my greed, every decision will automatically be wrong. And intuition can only really arise when we get rid of those things. So when people say things like be decisive, be more kind, set boundaries, be ruthless, seek justice, forgive people, half these advice are really the opposite of each other, and it's up to our intuition to figure out what that means. Like I said earlier, people mean different things by different words, and this is just the nature of how our language evolved to begin with. If you look at the reason, if you track the leading theories on language, one of the key factors is deception. An animal communicates a signal that gives the least possible amount of information necessary to get what they want. So if we do believe this theory, when we speak, we are not designed to necessarily be earnest all the time. Instead, we're designed to communicate with efficiency and in a manner that requires the other to crack the code, right? And this helps us deal with both interspecies and interspecies competition, supposedly. And this is partly why complexity in language evolved over time as well, supposedly. I could definitely kind of see this being true. And in this manner, we could kind of assume that there is a built-in deciphering necessary in most people's words, books, speeches, videos, Reddit advice, whatever it might be. So I'm not saying it's intentional or malicious. It's just, that's just how we are designed to speak. It's really hard to communicate and connect. What this means is that advice like be decisive doesn't actually make sense in most scenarios. This is why we must work on our intuition, because that helps us understand what that means. And the practices that help me be intuitive are things like writing down my feelings, talking to others, trying new hobbies, having time alone with yourself, meditating. In the end though, none of that actually really matters, right? It's the investigative mind that seeks to understand that will lead us to actually taking that advice. And I think that act of trying to understand is already enough. That is the way. I once watched a TikTok where it said, if you are trying to love yourself, you already are. And I think that is brilliantly put. If I try to understand where my anger comes from, that understanding automatically fixes the anger. If I try to understand where my confusion comes from, that understanding already fixes the confusion. And this leads us to have empty space. And this empty space has awareness that's built into it. We often think we need to read more books, watch more videos, search up more questions, ask more friends for advice. I think learn to sort of ignore all those things at times is a pretty important part of learning to hear yourself. Not saying to ignore them all the time, just until we could figure out how to be intuitive. That's how we get past this evolutionary mechanism of deception that we have built into us through intuition. I do firmly believe that smart people are wrong all the time. Wise people are not. This is because wise people know how to apply knowledge in a manner that's most useful to themselves and to others in that one specific context. And even in this case, I think wise people make claims that have an element of uncertainty to it, questioning, not necessarily stating. This is not the same thing as being confused, in my opinion. It's a way of relating with the person and relating with oneself. Instead of saying be decisive, they're implying that you should be decisive in this situation, in this moment, in this context. And even in this case, the wisest people I know, when they give their opinions, it doesn't seem ineffable. It feels more like an opinion that's really useful. The opinion is clearly dependent not only on the person they're talking to, the location, the time period, the state of emotions they're in right now, all of that. On the other hand, smart people just say stuff. They just be yapping. I guess that's technically me because I don't know who I'm talking to. They don't say I think. They say you must do this. They don't see context, but rather apply stuff broadly. They can't see that they're coming from a certain framework while the other person they're talking to is coming from a different framework. Basically, there's a gap there that they're not learning how to bridge. So obviously, when this happens, we're bound to say wrong things. Our statements are inevitably wrong when they're talking about certainty. So to me, being smart in this manner is not really useful, is it? Instead, I think the type of smartness is the ability to get what you want out of life. It's the quality of wanting wisdom. So in this way, if you're a goofy person but you're getting what you want, then you are smart. If your IQ isn't above 130 but you're in a good relationship, then you are smart. If you fail every single test in high school and flunked out of college, yet you have a job that provides for you and you're not miserable in it, then you are smart. And if we define it that way, then it's okay to be wrong all the time, because at least you're getting what you want out of life. And the ability to get what you want out of life is what we see from people that go to places like MIT or Harvard. They are good schools, of course, but it's the fact that we see a signal of prestige and status, and that's what we're kind of measuring. But even with that in mind, smart people can be wrong all the time. This is because our ability to know what we want is also pretty conditional on the awareness of our mind. It comes from a deeper type of intelligence, the intelligence that I colloquially call wisdom and intuition. Wisdom is earned, but I can't explain how. The skill of wisdom does not come easily, yet it does make everything else easier. I'm not saying I'm a wise person necessarily. I'm just saying when I've acquired a certain level of intuition about something, it changes me fundamentally. And I don't think it's easy. I wish I was wise about everything, because there's no protocol for it necessarily, right? Unlike most things in life, which is about input and output, right? Like I do this thing and I get this thing. I think perspective and wisdom is a bit different. However, I think it probably does come from a set of conditions that we can try to replicate. And so when I speak now, this is my ability to try to replicate it in myself and to everyone. First answer in the context of receiving and giving advice is the ability to actually listen, like truly listening. When people say words, there are clues buried within it. And I think it's not intentional, but we can only uncover it when we embody ourselves in them in some sense. And what I mean is literally putting ourselves in their shoes, in their mental volition, their state of being, their experiences and their mood. Where are they coming from? How can I understand them? What do they really mean? These are the type of questions that come to my head these days when I'm speaking to someone that's giving me advice. And so when we do talk and speak back and give advice back, it becomes a collaborative experience. It's not like I'm doing anything special here. So in that manner, be decisive or be kind, be ruthless becomes a conversation rather than a stopping point. And in this way, understanding what comes next, I'm supposed to speak about next, comes from listening. Listen to the voices that arise. So I'm going to be careful about the way we word things here, but there is an intelligence that's available to us in each moment. But I think we get lost about it because of our thoughts, self-identity, other stimuli. We just can't listen to it anymore. And I'm not even talking about anything like religious here specifically. I don't really care about that. You could call it what you want. I just mean there's something in us that clearly produces amazing insight that are relevant to what we want. So in this manner, so we could be both smart and wise. We could live a happy life while giving good advice too. And I think this could happen at any point truly. But words like letting go, listening, doing nothing, and just noticing, letting things happen to you, those are the phrases that come to my mind when I think of acts that produce wisdom and intuition. These are the things that reveal wisdom that we're all capable of having. And it's not necessarily about extra special experience or your age. I truly believe even the youngest souls could have the deepest answers, and the oldest person could be deeply shallow. It just comes down to how we apply the skills that I was talking about earlier. The skill of living moment to moment, skill of listening to others. It sounds tough, but it is the thing that makes things way easier in my opinion. And it can be applied to any sets of conditions. You don't have to have friends around. You don't have to be alone. You don't have to be meditating to do it. You don't have to be a monk in a cave. You don't have to grow a beard. You don't have to read 100 philosophy books. You can be pissed off. You can be picking your nose. You can be doing foolish things. The act of listening, letting go, noticing can be applied right there. And these are the people that are truly wise, in my opinion. So I think when we think of advice, we should speak in a way that relates, right? Because I have a tendency to talk as if like I could explain everything with the same terms and same words to everyone. That's kind of a necessary evil when I'm making a public video. I think this is also because I want to apply this consistency in my character throughout all my life. However, it is not the most useful way to be. It kind of reminds me of that one Mike Tyson video with that child. The child asks, "What do you think of your legacy given how legendary your career has been?" Mike Tyson, fully tweaked out and completely locked in his fight, pre-fight mode, goes full dark side. Starts talking about how legacy doesn't matter. Everything is impermanent. I'm gonna die. You're gonna die. We are all specks. We are nothing. Again, these are all true facts, sure. But he's talking to a child in here. It was a funny video to see, but the kid looked traumatized. I think this is an example of not speaking in a way that relates, and it displays a lack of charisma and wisdom to me personally. There's clearly intelligence there. It's just application is incorrect. So in this way, whenever we hear advice, we should definitely always wonder where the other person is coming from, so that we could actually see what it means. Decisiveness really means nothing other than trusting the process of letting go and understanding our intuition. The act of trusting that you have ability and the skill to apply your insights. experience, to apply your wisdom, to apply the understanding that has been spoken to you. So yes, confusion and being lost isn't actually necessary if you have the idea in mind. All advice is perfect if you understand where it's coming from. It's also all useless if you're already living in an intuitive way. So no reason for us to be confused in any manner. Be decisive.